What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Talk Tuesdays. And today we are going to be talking about something that I know is on everybody's mind, because it's on my mind and it's always there. It's always been there. We just don't always see it and we don't always pay attention to it. And that's racism in sports. Listen, racism and sports have gone together since the 20s and probably before then. I don't know. I wasn't there. But what I can tell you is it's been there. Ever since Jack Johnson became the world's greatest boxer, who all the way up until now with Colin Kaepernick and what's been going on with him. And the way that he's being treated and the collusion that is definitely going on in the NFL that we definitely know for sure have been covered up for the most part and now is being exposed. You know, of late I've stopped watching the NFL because at this point I just feel like I gotta protest this thing. I have to be honest with myself, and as a man, I just can't do it. I can't look at what I'm seeing these days and say that I can honestly watch it in full. And it's just because I know people want to do it because it's the cool thing to do, or it's in style, and to say you're woke and all this other stuff. Listen, for me, it's just that as a man who is someone who has been seeing racism for so long, had to understand that it's got to stop somewhere. And to see the blatant way they treat this man has been terrible. Colin Kaepernick deserves to have a job. He's better than half the players that are in the NFL. He's better than half the quarterbacks, I should say, that are in the NFL right now. He just needs the right offense to run what he knows how to do, and basically needs someone to believe in him and stick with him. Now, in the NFL, there was a time when there were no African American quarterbacks. And there was a time when nobody believed in African American quarterbacks. Doug Williams did a big change in that when he won the Super Bowl back in the 80s. That changed a lot of things. Now you turn on a college team, and I guarantee you're going to see a black quarterback on their roster, or you're going to see a black quarterback starting. J.J. Barrett just won a big game against Penn State, and he's an African American quarterback, and one of the prominent ones in college football. You know, Michael Vick. I mentioned Michael Vick because Michael Vick was a very big time African American quarterback, and he's one of the few that was blowing up into an enormous amount. And then he was taken down because of his own ignorance. And I say that didn't do much to help with that, with the narrative about African American quarterbacks. And the reason why I'm speaking about this is because this is right now the most prominent idea of what sports is looking like in this country. On the world view, Lewis Hamilton, who is the first African American F1 driver, has just won his 4th championship. His 4th. He is basically the Tiger Woods of F1 racing. And if you know anything about F1 racing is probably one of the biggest sports in the world, if not the biggest. And the reason I mention Lewis is because we need to understand the global scale of racism. There is prominent racism in soccer, or aka football, worldwide. Prominent, where they throw bananas at African players. Racism is something that is horrible and is terrible. But sports is a microcosm of society. It shows our best and our worst. See, just like in society, we're told that we have an even playing field, but we don't. See, there's a lot of racism, underlying racism everywhere in society. Whether you know it or not, whether you see it or you don't see it, it's always there. And in sports, it's blatant to a certain extent. Just recently, the Texans owner, I think McNair, said we can't let the inmates run the asylum. Basically what he's saying is, these players are inmates and this is an asylum. Basically saying a 70% African American sport, which is 70% African American, which is the NFL, we can't let them have control of it, because why would we want the inmates running things? It's a terrible example, being that there's so many African Americans who are largely incarcerated. It's a completely terrible example. But someone of that nature would say something like that because of the disconnect. You know, I don't sit there and try to put him in a box and try to say he's terrible, but the guy is that's just how disconnected many of these people who are in these high-ranking places, who have this kind of money, this kind of wealth, this kind of power, are disconnected from what's going on in the concept of people they employ. This is people they employ. And that's how far-reaching the disconnect between race and understanding the sensitivity of it has been. This is why the collusion that I do believe is happening in the NFL that's keeping Colin Kaepernick out of the NFL, the blackballing, is so prevalent and something that we need to pay close attention to. Because if this can happen to him in a public stage, what do you think can happen to you in a private stage, in a place where not everybody's got their eyes on you? See, we always have to understand that sports, like I said, is a microcosm of larger society. It shows you what exactly is going on in society. Think about it in terms of what you're looking at in baseball. Baseball is supplying a heavy amount of money to the Latin culture. But are they building up infrastructures in these towns, in these cities, in these places where they're getting these players from? I don't know. I don't know how much they're doing. And to baseball's best ability, they are reaching out to the inner city and are trying to get African American players to come back and play. And I do commend them for that. But there are very few places where that is actually even happening. Then you have hockey, which is one of the largest sports in America, or in the world too. And there aren't many African Americans there. There aren't anybody other than basically non-colored person. And how can I say this? I wonder why. I don't know if it's regional. I don't know what it is, but it's just not a sport that we gravitate to, because people go to what they see. We don't go to what we think. We go to what we see happening. Growing up as a kid, I played basketball most of my life because I loved playing basketball. Now, I sucked. I wasn't that great at it. I had a lot of heart, played great defense, I guess, but I wasn't going to go to the NFL. I mean, the NBA, I'm sorry. I wasn't going to go to the NBA. And I knew I was never going to go to the NFL. Look, I'm not big enough for that. Nor was I going to be that great at it. But, I understood that. But I went where I could see people who look like me. I didn't go to sports where I didn't see people who didn't look like me. And that's what majority of African Americans kids do. They go towards sports that looks like them. Now, in most of these sports, we don't have any power. You see right now, the fact that Colin Kaepernick took a knee to the anthem because he believed that he needed to stand up and make a protest to something he no longer could believe in, because we weren't being treated equally. At the time he was doing that, we were definitely, the camera was bright, the camera lights and everything was on our community being slain and mistreated by the police of this country. And the killing and the senseless acts that were being committed against African Americans and police officers not being punished for it amplified that. And it's been something that's been going on forever, long before we could really put it out there on social media. There was so much going on. And even back when Muhammad Ali and Bill Russell and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar were fighting back in the 60s, we had to understand that these men were fighting for what we want now. It's pretty much the same thing. We just want an equal playing field. We want to be treated as equals. We can't be treated as equals when we're being referred to as inmates in the largest sport in a country that's supposed to be priding itself on equality. That right there is where things fall off. You can't find equality if you're being told or being referred to as inmates or as people who don't have as much power. See, I always look at how we are reacting to situations from an angle of what's the culture going to be like? What's the ramifications of what people do? You can give people money, you can give people endorsement deals, you can give people opportunity. All those things are great. That's pretty much, you're just saying, here, we can give you all these things, but here's what you can't do. You can't say anything for your people. You can't stand up and say anything publicly ever. You can't take time out to help your folks, unless you're going to give a charity. We'll take your charity, but you won't get any more endorsements for that. And no, you may not go out and go speak on this major case that's going on of discrimination, or you can't go out and speak about anything that you feel is wrong in society itself. Because if you do that, we're going to take away all this opportunity, money, and endorsements. See, that's not being equal. That's separatism. And that is shut up and play. And that in itself is the most underlining, most racist thing in the world. Because any other culture, you can go do that. But in this culture, no. They don't want you speaking up. Now, NBA players are free to do that because the NBA is pretty much an African American sport. The problem with the NBA is there's very few minority owners. There's very few people who look like the players, who have control like the players do. And in the NFL, it doesn't even happen that anyone who looks like the players is in control of things. And I'm not saying that if someone who looked like them would be better off. I'm not saying that by no means, because race does not equal kind and good people. Race only equals what you look like. It has nothing to do with who you are as a person. I'm just saying that it's good to see diversity within a culture, especially a sports culture, because it gives some type of leverage or credence that not everybody needs to be some mega athlete just to be involved with it. They can be someone who's a coach, someone who's an owner, someone who's a general manager. These kind of things are very, very important to the growth of a sport and the growth of a people, is to see diversity. See, you grow up thinking that all you can be is a sports athlete or an announcer or someone who's an entertainer, a rapper, but there's plenty of lawyers, there's plenty of doctors, there's plenty of EMTs, there's plenty of people that are doing so many different things in this world that are important, constructors, architects, that are of a different color, but all we see is this. All we want to do is be an athlete. We never want to just be a doctor, because those things are boring and those things are not highlighted in the community. Now in most places they'll say that's your culture's fault, but it's not always our fault. Not everything is our fault. You got to think about it in terms of what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go as a people. And I want my people to do better. I want things to change. Man, I want things to be better for everyone in my culture, everyone in my people. It's just not always easy to see, and it's not been easy to watch, and it's been difficult to pay attention to all the drama that has been going on. So I'm sorry that today has been more of a lackluster discussion, but I wanted to dig deep into the psychology of race in sports and how we always gravitate towards what we think our people look like, and we're always going to go towards these things, but we need to find some type of balance where there's some equality there. But I know at this point, for some people, equality, that ship has sailed, and they're in this place where they think we need to figure out how we're going to do this as an African American community, and I know we do. I just, for what I want change, but I know that's going to take time, and I know that's going to take a second. But I digress. Tonight is a quick discussion about the simple growth of a culture. So, not to keep you guys all night long. Like I said, there's going to be more stuff going on, but for now, we're just getting the show started. I'll have more stuff down the road, but for now, this is all I wanted to say. So, definitely hit that like button, subscribe, check it out. Check out the other stuff that I posted before this, and I really appreciate everyone who checked it out. I'll catch you guys next week. Thank you. Peace.
So you have the capacity of whether you want to be stuck living in the memories of the past or engage your imagination and create a powerful future.
Hey yo, I swear I seen it all.